back. Before we left, we had an amendment on, so we'll get back to that now. And we did get a seconder for that, didn't we? Okay, Councillor Jackson. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, are we back in business anyway? We're sort of down the numbers, I think, in the chamber, but it is what it is.
Councillor Gallagher, they did inform me that they had a meeting at 4:30. They were hoping we'll finish early, so they haven't disappeared because of the motion.
No, I wasn't fair that at all. No. Can I speak against the amendment and maybe some of the reasons why this motion was brought? Mayor, and I believe it has been substantially changed beyond recognition of what the intentions of the motion was in the first place. But when we look at the failure of the department, Mayor, I can inform this chamber that Communities Against Mining has on many occasions informed the department for the need for a transboundary consultation. Going way back in the last year, and that was ignored. And if it hadn't been for the Commissioner, they would still be ignored and not allowing the people on this island full consultation. So the Minister needs to take responsibility for that. The department needs to take responsibility for that. And the responsibility situation where we find ourselves in today. Mayor, communities that are trying to protect the environment and our health are spending their own money trying to do that, and are employing expertise. And within this motion, Mayor, this council does have expenditure and has had expenditure with regards to this inquiry. And our staff have been participating and present at that inquiry. Now, the party that brought this amendment, they refused at one time in this chamber to write a letter to Dublin claiming the expense of a stamp. Our staff cost money. And when they're participating in this inquiry, they're not working for the ratepayers. Therefore, there is a cost, which is inaccurate from the person who brought the amendment. Mayor, this amendment just strikes of our usual tone. And that tone is that the party that brought it is trying to ride two horses with one horse. That the party that brought this are famous for taking credit for everything and responsibility for nothing. This minister is responsible for the mess that this is in and the hardship that has been brought to the people of the Sperrins and further afield. And there will be consequences. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Members, is there anyone else who would like to speak either on the amendment or Councillor Jackson?
Speak very briefly on the amendment, and in comparison to the original motion, the amendment, and if we're going to be serious about protecting the environment, protecting the Sperrins, we need all like-minded parties to be working together. And the original motion and the comments from the previous speaker is deliberately divisive. He's bringing his own personal politics into it, and he's entitled to his opinion. But the reality speaks for itself. I think a public inquiry, as Councillor Leonard has outlined, was called by Sinn Féin Minister. Both the judicial review and that was taken by this council was supported by councillors within this chamber and Sinn Féin councillors within this chamber. The public inquiry and the expert advice and the budget that was secured to provide that was brought by Sinn Féin councillors in Omagh and Fermanagh. And we will work with others to ensure the protections of the sparrows. And I would hope that rather than trying to pick fights to make himself relevant, Councillor Gallagher would work with the rest of us with the sole goal to protect our environment, and particularly the sparrow and AOMB. So I would ask others to consider the amendment that's put in front of us in the spirit of partnership and the divisiveness in relation to an important issue around saving our sparrows. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Gallagher for bringing the motion and to the contributions from Councillor Jackson. On probably Councillor Jackson's last note there, I don't believe this is actually divisive. I think it's actually just bringing to the fore the concerns of those interest groups who are bringing forward, who are concerned about the actual the future of the inquiry and the progress of the inquiry. Obviously, you know, I think the inquiry, my understanding, was called in 2020 by Nicola Mallon, and then he was the SDLP minister at the time. That aside, anyway, and then obviously the present minister came into role just shortly after the election, 22. So it's somewhat nearly 3 years since we're here, and obviously since then there has been a lapse, but obviously the work carries on in the absence of any minister under the principles of the Cartona principle and various other government machinations that are there. But in that, anyway, it's reasonably, any reasonable observer would say that that work should have been done. And you can't get away from the fact that the work, when you open up an inquiry, the work should have been done. The foreseeability of those transboundary consultations and that work should have been at the forefront of the minister's mind, i.e. through his officials. And today the minister takes the principle as the head of department. And I think it's reasonable, or the SLP group, and I should say, think it's reasonable that the asks that are there, that in the original motion, are reasonable and are feasible. And I think that the amendment actually takes away from a substantially reasonable motion in principle. And it's my view that we will not be supporting the amendment, but not in any divisive way, but in the fact that we really believe that Councillor Gallagher's motion was brought reasonably and was brought by him being approached by those groups who are interested in the progress and to see the progress of this inquiry. Because let's look at it. The inquiry was suspended in September through issues. It's now been suspended 2 weeks ago through further issues. So you can't say reasonably that this was brought forward with reasonable expedition. So on that basis, we will not be supporting the amendment. I think Councillor Gallagher's principal motion should stand, and that's the view of the SLP. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Alderman Kerrigan online. Alderman Kerrigan? Okay, we'll move to Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you to Councillor Gallagher for bringing this very, very important motion to the chamber today. And People Before Profit will not be supporting the amendment. I think that the issue of Dalradian is divisive because on the one side, you have people who want to have a sign up for Ireland that says open for business, come here, profiteer, potentially ruin our environment. And that's the way forward. And then you have communities, campaigners and others campaigning to stop that reality from happening. And that's what this fight is about. This is about the fight for what Ireland is going to look like. Hopefully what a united Ireland will look like. Is it going to be one that has a for open for business sign for profiteers from all over the world that can come here, steal our resources, profit from it, and leave ruins behind them? And so I think what's happened here is that people are angry that the consultation was suspended, and somebody has to be responsible for it. And what the amendment does, it whitewashes all responsibility away from the government and the minister. It's straightforward. Somebody has to be in charge, and it is a disaster that this public inquiry isn't going forward. So people are frustrated, the 50,000 objectors, and people also are suspicious about why the public inquiry isn't going forward. So I think that people are due an apology from the minister. It's straightforward. People have been waiting for this for years. They have the opportunity to expose what Dalradian is doing and demonstrate why they shouldn't be allowed to wreck the Sperrins. So that's why there's an apology in there. Taking out the issue of environmental regulations, it's clear that there is an enabling culture throughout every single department in Stormont that enables corporations like Dalradian to basically violate environmental regulations. How did we get Loch Ness? Why is there sewage pouring into River Foyle? Same process when it comes to the Sperrins. The departments do not care about environmental regulations, and this enabling culture that runs right through every government department and runs through councils is not good for the environment, isn't good for people, and it isn't good for communities. And it's a shame that it's been taken out. So it's very frustrating because what's happened with this motion, this is not the motion we've been reading over the last week. This is a different motion. And it's a shame that this motion has been torn apart and upended in order to protect a minister, in order to protect a government who oversee departments that are failing to protect our environment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Carrigan, coming back to you.
There, he is there, and he's trying to unmute. I don't know what the delay is.
Sorry, Mayor, is that, sorry, are we all right now?
Okay, go ahead.
So apologies about that, Mayor. I just had a wee moment, a wee lapse there and just wasn't as technically minded as well, I'm not going to say as usually am, but as I can be. Mayor, in regards to it, we are, again, we're supportive of the public inquiry and for the individuals to get their case across. And we know this has been ongoing in regards to the Dalradian and in regards to there are many groups within the Sperrins who are opposed to that. There are individuals who would be supportive of the mining, and we do see the amendment which has been brought forward again by Sinn Féin in this regard, and we are sympathetic in elements of that also. But overall, Mayor, we do feel that on this occasion there, it has changed significantly, this amendment, and I do feel that we'll be minded to abstain on this one. But we are supportive of trying to get clarity, and I don't feel that we can get, even with the inquiry, I don't feel that we can get. There will always be a side which won't be in favour of this, however it transpires, however the outcome of it. But we are supportive of trying to get to the bottom of it and trying to get everyone's opinions on board in regards to public inquiry. But I do feel that it's something in regards to this motion brought forward, in regards to the amendment, we're going to abstain on it, Mayor. But thank you very much for the opportunity, and I do thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing the motion as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Carrigan. Okay, moving on to Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, I can't understand how the people who proposed this amendment can sit with a straight face and say, join us in the spirit of unity, when they just took a red pen and decimated the motion. No consultation, no contact, just ripped it apart, made it virtually unrecognisable in the original context. And then when Councillor Gallagher defends that, he's accused of being divisive. It's almost an Animal Farm situation, scenario. And, you know, this has come from the enablers, people who will be cozying up, cozy relationship with the like of Donald Trump and the dig. We're open for business, cozying up the capitalism. So I'm not surprised. But Mayor, in support of the motion, I want to make some of the following points. The original motion, you know, it's not the first time it's been pointed out that the public inquiry has been postponed because of a government department's failure to comply with their own regulations, and previously having advised the Appeals Commission that it complied with the law on water abstraction and impoundment applications. DAERA was found to have breached its own regulations, and now the inquiry has been suspended after just 3 days. As it turns out, the Department of Infrastructure failed to properly consult with the Free State government and our fellow citizens on the transboundary effects of Dalradian's gold mine. Of course, it's not the high-paid experts, the lawyers or the public officials who lose out in this. They'll still get paid handsomely. It's local communities who have had to prepare with little or no access to experts or financial resources, who are, in this case, the real losers from yet another department cock-up. I'm aware one group of protectors in the Sperrins who had to fundraise to afford an expert to appear on their behalf. Flights and accommodation were booked and paid for, and that's now lost because of this department's negligence. So, Chair, I won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Barr?
Thank you, Mayor. For those who felt that the result of this inquiry will be a foregone conclusion, the fiasco around the suspension of the inquiry will appear to be very ominous indeed, as it indicates not only are Dalradian prepared to treat the Sperrins communities with contempt, but so also our government departments. I can't support the amendment, and thank you to Councillor Gallagher for bringing the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Jackson, you're looking to come in?
Very briefly, just they say that was expecting the comments from Councillor Donnelly, and I'm only thankful that he didn't describe either myself or Councillor Leonard's remarks as a lecture, or does he only reserve that description for females? Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Members, I think we move for a vote. Councillor Harkin?
Has there been any legal advice on the amount of changes to this motion? Because it's a different motion. Can we get a legal opinion on it?
Yeah.
So it does comply with standing orders. Relevant standing orders in relation to amendment is Standing Order 17, and it's 17.11 is the relevant standing order in relation to that, which says essentially the key issue in relation to that is that it must not be a direct negative, and it must be relevant to the proposal which it seeks to amend. And obviously it's on the same broad topic as the proposal that it seeks to amend, and whilst it does remove some of the asks, a considerable number of the asks from the proposal, some of the asks from the original proposal remain, and therefore it is not a direct negative of the entire motion.
In response to that, it is a motion that criticises the government and the minister to a motion that does not criticise the government and the minister. That is a direct negative. It is not doing, it no longer serves the purpose that the motion was written up for. So I don't see how that can't be considered when you take out every single criticism of a government department, of a minister, and that is a direct negative. Some of the language is still in there, but the thrust of the entire motion is gone. So that is a direct negative. That's very clearly a direct negative.
So again, just to reiterate, the issue is that we have had this issue on a number of occasions before, that it arises with lengthy notices of motions that have a number of asks. And we deal with this directly during the training that we deal with in notices of motion each year. This notice of motion post the amendment will retain the request that the council write to the Minister for Infrastructure as a matter of urgency, expressing the concerns outlined and seeking assurance that when the inquiry reconvenes, his department will be adequately prepared and represented by officials at a senior level. So I can't say that this is a direct negative of the entire notice of motion. And that's the basis upon which the ruling is made to the chair.
Okay, members, we will move to the vote for the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'm not quite sure who is currently in the meeting, so if you wouldn't mind if I just went through every member
Yep,
again.
that's
Okay.
perfect.
Alderman Cook,
Abstain.
Alderman Guy, Alderman Hussey, Alderman Carrigan, Alderman Hussey,
Against.
Alderman Carrigan,
Abstain, John.
Alderman McMorris,
She's-
Alderman Middleton,
Abstain, John.
Alderman Montgomery, Councillor Jason Barr,
Against, John?
pardon?
Against,
Against. Councillor Lillian Barr,
against,
Councillor Raymond Barr, Councillor Boggs,
Ta.
Councillor Boyle,
Against.
Councillor Clark, Councillor Cusick,
Against.
Councillor Deeney,
Ta.
Councillor Devine,
Ta.
Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Alex Duffy, Councillor Sandra Duffy,
Ta.
Councillor Farrell,
Against.
Councillor Fleming,
Ta.
Councillor Gallagher, against. Councillor Harkin, Councillor Hart,
Ta.
Councillor Heaney, Councillor Hutton,
Ta.
Councillor Jackson, Councillor Leonard,
Ta.
Councillor Logue,
Or.
Councillor McDade,
Against.
Councillor McGinley,
Ta.
Councillor McHugh,
Ta. For.
Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy, Councillor O'Farrell, Councillor Riley,
Against?
Councillor Aeneas.
Ta.
Thank you, members.
John, apologies. I got frozen on the screen, but I was abstaining again. Thank you. It's Alderman Middleton here.
You're voting against Alderman Middleton.
I abstain, John, please. Thank you.
I
John.
have you down as abstention.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, that's grand. It just all froze. I couldn't hear or see, but I can now. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Where I've recorded 18 for, 13 against and 3 abstentions. So the amendment passes.
okay, members, back to the substantial motion now. Anyone who would like to speak on it, who hasn't? Okay, I'll get Councillor Gallagher to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to thank everyone who supported the original motion as brought by myself. This has been a long campaign, quite a number of years. The corporate position of this council is opposed to this development. And proceeds, and there's failings by ministers and departments along the way. Regardless of the decision within this chamber, there will be many people in the Northwest, in Ireland, across the board, that will be opposing this at every shape and form that it comes in, regardless of people who try to put obstacles in their way. They will remain steadfast until Dalrymple goes back across the Atlantic Sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Members, can I just check if the vote is the same or are people voting differently from the amendment? We're voting differently? Okay, so should I assume it is unanimous? Abstain? So DUP is abstaining? Is there anyone online who is abstaining?
Alderman Middleton, Mayor, please. Thank you so much.
Abstaining, okay.
Yeah, Mayor.
And everybody else is voting for the motion?
No,
No?
Derek here, Alderman Hussey. The motion,
Abstaining or voting against?
this is the amended motion, isn't it?
The substantial motion now? The
Yeah.
amendment has passed.
Yes, that's correct. No, abstaining.
Abstain? Okay. Anybody else abstaining? Anyone voting against? Okay, yeah.
34.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, members. Moving on, the next agenda item 14 is really just to get a proposer and a seconder, unless somebody wants to give a comment or a question. Propose, John Boyle.
I'll be the second.
Councillor Barr, you look into item 14, ceiling list. Okay. It has been proposed, seconded by Councillor Farrow. Okay, the next 15 to 70 is open for information unless there's anyone who would like to make a comment or raise an issue. Okay, Councillor Bog online for item 15.
Gurmogat, Mayor, and it's just in relation to Appendix 2 and item 15 is the response from the British Secretary of State in relation to the Noah Donoghue case. And I think it is somewhat sickening to see that the British Secretary of State states that he fully understands the family's desire for truth and justice, while he's glossing over the need to rescind the use of a public interest immunity certificate in the case as previously called for by our party and this council. And I would again ask, why is there a need for a PAA if there is nothing to hide, as he alludes to at the bottom of page 1 of his letter? And I just want to take this opportunity because I think it is important as a council that we take every opportunity, and this is another one that I want us to take today to again demonstrate our support for the Donoghue family and their quest for truth and justice, and to completely refute what the British Secretary of State has says in his letter.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Anyone else? Councillor Barr?
Mayor, and it's on the same issue. I'd like to concur with what Councillor Boggs has just said. I'm bitterly disappointed at the Secretary of State's response for requesting to the case and also to rescind the public interest immunity certificate in Noah's case. The coroner at the time, Mr. Justice Humphreys, when approving the PA application, said, and I quote, "Disclosure of the redacted material would give rise to a real risk of serious harm to the public interest." This comment alone indicates a sinister involvement in Noah's death. I've listened today to the comments and the tributes around Bloody Sunday with great sadness. And as someone who's on the March on Bloody Sunday, and as someone who spoke to a workmate shortly before he was murdered, and as someone who has witnessed the long torturous wait for truth that these families endured, I just wonder if the Donoghue family will be faced with a similar ordeal because of a reluctance by the authorities to conduct an open and transparent investigation into Noah's death. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor. I just thought it would be worth commenting on 2.7, and it's the British Minister for the Middle East's response to our motion. And I think, look, it's frustrating because the minister's claiming and making it appear as if the British government and British state has been a neutral player when it's come to the genocide in Gaza, and this just isn't true. The British government, both the Tories and Labour, are fully complicit in the Gaza genocide, and I think that it's pretty typical of the British government to make it appear as if they're doing everything they can to help the people of Gaza when we know that they have green-lighted weapon sales to Israel, when we know that they have defended Israeli propaganda, when we know that many of their ministers are actually funded by the Israeli state. So it's not surprising, the response, but it is pretty typical and it is full of lies. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Okay, member, there being no other comments and no other business, I call this meeting to a close.
Thank you.